Hello, everybody. Greetings, everybody. I'm very excited to see some old friends joining us today. Welcome wherever you are. This is week 5 of ArtSAT. I'm hearing an echo somewhere. I don't know where it's coming from. Greetings, Bravusi. So for those who are joining us for the very first time, this is called ArtSAT. This session, we spend an hour and a half together each week, honoring artists, visual artists, musicians, and writers for their work and for the impact that their life's work continues to make. Um, if you hear that there's something wrong with your sound or my sound, please write on the chat. I'm hearing feedback. I'm not quite sure what is happening. But anywho, so we spend an hour and a half each Saturday. Um, mm, the echo is coming from my side. I do not know what could be the problem, but maybe let's just keep it moving before we run out of time. We have quite a few speakers today. Um, So during ArtSAT program, we've done quite a few things. We've launched books, we've screened films, we've held live online exhibitions. Part of the films that we are screening is a 15-part series called South African Arts Past and Present, produced by and directed by Abdul Kader Ahmed Said, Bridget Thompson, and the late Dingan Kapa. And the film introduced an understanding of the roots of South African aesthetics with the aim to showcase how artists, musicians, writers have shaped their artistic expression. Apart from honoring the artists, this program is aimed at arts and culture teachers, visual art teachers, art students, artists, community art center facilitators, who in the past have showed interest in learning and receiving teaching materials from about South African artists, which would assist them in classroom situations. I host these sessions. My name is Zipho Daile. I'm the curator and host of these sessions. And I host them alongside my colleagues that I mentioned previously, the creators of the films, Abdul Kader Said and Bridget Thompson, as well as Yonelisa Jacobs on the technical aspects of things. So as always, before we jump into this week's program, I would like to give thanks to last week's guests, as well as everybody who logged on as we screened and discussed the film on the incredible ceramic artist Ihubolenga Abadi, formerly known as Bonelo Taulutuli. I think is also somewhere here with us. Thank you, Ihubo, for gracing us with your presence and also from, taking us through your journey and speaking about the evolution of Sibonelo. Thanks to the speakers, Domim Tumkulu and Lungiswa Joe, who joined us last week. Today on week 5, it's an honor to present to you the session on the master teacher and artist, Brachals Sokhaya Nkosi, as is fully known by most of us. Greeting Brachals in Shawelo. He's not alone there. He's with his old-time friend and neighbor, Bra Vincent Baloi. Greetings to you also, Bra Vincent. We also joined by guest speaker Athi Mongezeleli, Joja, connecting all the way from the US of A. Greetings, Athi. We're also expecting our discussant is Thamsanqa Sijila from Langa, who is going to log in a little bit later. He's running around trying to help out with the weekend big Langa centenary celebration, but he promised to log in pretty soon. We also have a short video clip by Dr. Sabim Nduli, who could not make it today due to work commitments, but she really is honored to make a contribution via video, which we will play a little bit later. But to kick off the program, I would like to call forward one of the producers of the films, and someone who's worked across the country with Charles, conducting workshops, mounting exhibition with the artists, Bridget Thompson. Can you please come forward to do an appreciation on Charles? And then immediately after Bridget, we will go straight to the film and then come back to listen to our guests. All right, Bridget, please unmute yourself and switch on your camera. Hi, why is the host unmuting me? Is Bridget in the house?
She is, but we can't hear her. Let me check on her.
Okay, while we wait for Bridget, if you're interested in the film we're about to screen, and if you're also interested in some of the workbooks that come along with the films, we provide these to arts and culture centers and also to arts and culture teachers. And if you would like to get some of these films for any other specific reason, please write to inquiries@artubuntu.org and inquire about, getting these films and the workbooks. The workbooks also come with the scripts of the film. They also come with some essays written by commissioned authors. For this particular film, we asked Bongiwe Hlekiso, the art historian, to contribute to Charles' film. So the workbook will come with that, and also an interesting timeline, which would be useful in understanding what was happening in the region and how it might influence. So I'm wondering, can we speak to Bridget? Okay, so we're going to go straight to the film while they're trying to figure out what the problem with Bridget's connection is. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the film and hearing Brad Charles speak in his own words, what way it all began. So this is, I mean, as I said earlier on, if you are an educator or you are a community arts facilitator and you're interested in these films and the workbooks that come with them, please do write to us, inquiries@artubuntu.org, or if you know of someone or an institution that could benefit from all of this information, please contact us. This is a part of the sessions where we invite our guest speakers to come forward. I know you would like to have Brad Charles speak. He'll get the chance. And if you have questions, there's Brad Charles there and Brad Vincent. Dumelani then, Chawel. So you'll get a chance to speak. It's fine. You don't have to unmute them now. I would like to first start with Athi. Bridget has asked to be moved towards the back, Yonelisa. So we will start with Athi. Athi Mongezeleli Joja is an artist and a historian. And he got the privilege of going around the country with Brad Charles some time ago when Athi Muntu was running programs, educational programs. He's grown a little bit now. Brad Charles, you haven't seen him. A little bit of a beard. So Art is Art is here. I'm going to hand it over to you, Art Joja. You can unmute yourself, and your camera is already on. So yeah, welcome.
Sure. Injan.
Uyaphila thina Athi, uyaphila wena.
Appeal. Okay, let me try. I've got 5 minutes, right?
6.
Charles, what do you need, Charles? Anyway, yeah, thank you, man, for this. It's a good morning this side. It's good cold morning. I mean, there's so much to say. Firstly, let me just say I'm really grateful for this film. Somebody speaking in the background. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm very grateful for this film. I mean, all the kinds of films that I've been seeing on the artists, and I'm very grateful for the appreciation of the artists, the gesture of appreciation that the film is showing to artists like Brad Charles, just stalwarts and pioneers, while they're still alive, you know. And I think this is an important intervention and a great introduction to people who might not know who Brad Charles is. And I assure them that they will never be disappointed by Brad Charles. And I think it's a little teaser, a great introduction, but I just also imagine it, because there's so much to think about and learn about artists like Brad Charles. And I'm thinking of a film as even longer, like Mangoba's film or Zoli Dumile's film, or film of that magnitude that really introduce us to Black South African artists in this fashion. Because if we don't do that, you know, these artists fizzle away and people don't realize how important they are to the development of our artistic landscape. The contemporary world moves on, but as it usually does, kind of with the mentality of the market, you know, moving with fashion and so on. You know, I hope that the school curriculums don't move in that fashion. You know, they are made aware of artists like Brad Charles. And once students get introduced, you know, to these artists, I mean, if you're in high school and you learn that, you know, you don't only have to learn about Van Gogh and so on, but there are people right next door to you who make impactful art as these guys, or even better, you know, because they speak directly to your experience. You know, that's very transformative. Also, I mean, it's important to realize people like Brad Charles in the sense that he's a central figure in terms of, you know, the visual culture of the 1970s, you know, alongside, because we never really count when you talk about 76 and the Black consciousness movement, the importance and the centrality of artists in transforming and really giving content to whatever we assume Black consciousness is. I mean, Brad Charles is at the center of that, no doubt. And I wanted to add a detail that Brad Charles told me, which really made me excited. You know, when we were talking some years ago about the crucifixion series, he told me that something, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad Charles, that one of the influences perhaps of behind the crucifixion series were the writings of a theologian by the name of Manas Buthelezi that has largely been forgotten in South African academic and critical and scholarly circles, I think outside of theology. But also, I mean, Prachal has also been a formidable teacher, was mentored countless number of important figures in contemporary South African art. I mean, I can't even think of, I mean, there's many of them who directly come from Prachal's hand. And one of them is our dear departed brother, friend even, comrade, who the late Ezekiel Budeli, who I happen to work with alongside Prachal during the trips that Zippo mentioned, with traveling across the country, literally everywhere, just shadowing Prachal, Ezekiel, Lionel Davids, Peter Clark, and so on, and having to learn from Prachal, and his teaching methods, his seriousness, his funny side, and all of those kind of things. The importance of how to hold the classroom together, and how to, you know, how to make a classroom work. I mean, it's not an easy thing now that, you know, you have to stand in front of people. And also, I mean, this speaks to the range. I mean, if you watch Prachal move from one workshop, there's a picture here of tie-dyeing, one workshop, drawing workshop, printmaking workshop, and all of these things come out of one person. I mean, this speaks volume in terms of the range, the competence, and the various approaches that Prachal has as one single individual. And most people would just like, you know what, I know painting, or I can only speak competently about painting. Whereas if you talk about a figure like Prachal, you know, you're talking about a range of things. And if you also zoom in terms of what this dynamic, multi-talented capacity, not only as a teacher, but also as an artist, Prachal really, shows and embodies that kind. I mean, if you think about in terms of his practice, I mean, I spoke earlier about the Crucifixion series, which is a well-known, but what is less known, I mean, is the other things that Prachal has done. I mean, even the picture that we're seeing, the watercolors, I mean, the dynamic use of color, the energetic line works that you find in his drawings, in his pastel works, in his printmaking, and I was actually quite liking something that he said earlier when he talked about his earlier developments. That there's a phrase, but Chelsea, you also have to watch for phrases, because those phrases are very important. And he said something about his mode of practice, that it is important to look analytically instead of observing superficially. That's a kind of Prachal's phrase that you will get exactly in a fashion. But also there was something that he said in the film that I found it quite interesting, that when he was talking about his journey as a kid, drawing, just studying comic books and just drawing freely and so on, and then going to school and having to go through the rigorous process of learning, or rather unlearning his formative free-spirited printing and getting into the rigmarole of strict academic instruction, learning perspective, and all these kind of forms of formatting pictures and so on. And then it's quite interesting that at the later stage, I mean, it is also my favorite Prachal's practices, the abstraction, the use of abstraction in his collages / paintings that I really, really, really enjoy. The dynamic use of color, the dynamic use of line, it's almost as if Prashas is returning back, but nevertheless, at the same time, using whatever kind of wisdom that he's gained over the years. I mean, if you watch those and in his phrase, look analytically in terms of those abstract works, you know, there's so much that is going on there that requires one to read and observe intelligently, and really pay attention to each and every detail. You know, I mean, that kind of your eye moves restlessly across the picture plane, you know, without finding any particular point of rest. And it's quite interesting because it's almost like going back to that early childhood, free, spiritual, free kind of artistic form of practice. And I think those works are not given as much attention, you know. I mean, we still hack back into the 1970s work as if Prachals is not making work that is as equally energetic and as equally important and even politically necessary forms of instruction. I mean, if you think about the importance of abstraction in the time in which abstraction comes into form in South Africa in the late 70s, 80s, Duran Sihlali, David Kolwane, Pet Mautla, and so on. The introduction and the turn towards the abstract is an important intervention, and continues to be. And I think Prachals' work, we're sleeping really on those particular works in particular. And I think it's time for people to really turn towards them and really kind of begin to study, you know, and begin to study the works of Prachals. And with that, I would like to say congratulations to Athi Nobuntu for making this really beautiful film, which needs to be expanded to a longer film. All right. Okay. Thank you. Nkosi Prachals. Sharp.
Thank you, Athi. Prachals, yes, you get a chance to speak. If you wanted to correct Athi or respond to Athi, please do so.
Okay. Here I am trying to look myself into the mirror in the form of the artworks that I've done over the past 40 years. So, and it comes through the intellectual handling of a person who's used to looking at art and recognize. His name is Athi and Joja. So I've known him for quite a number of years, but I think he can very well handle and penetrate the spirituality that he sees when trying to unpack or unpattern a work of art. So to me, something like that makes it possible that Athi Joja is a born educator, a person who can unpack the spirituality that is inherent in the inward eye of every artist. So I've known him for quite a number of years, and thanks to Bridget and Abdul, that I've come to know such gifted people with a remedial penetration towards making people understand that art is not just something to while away time. And also my thanks goes to Art Ubuntu Trust, especially Bridget Thompson and Abdul Kader. And this to me means that the project that Athi Nobuntu is working on is a rewarding cornerstone to all the art educators in the country and the learners. And also thanking again Art and Ubuntu Trust that we were involved in a journey that touched Cape Town right up to Toyando via all the Mabana art centers in what used to be called Bophuthatswana. And we met many artists through the workshops that we handled. And our motto was that in us teaching art, we don't have to make children or learners be aware that they are naked. They don't know anything about art. You have to unseat the soil that is contained within an aspiring learner, so that that aspiring learner, if you take that child to an art exhibition and make that child to interact with artists who are represented by their artworks in that particular gallery. So I also think one of the things that could make this the journey of a learner towards the far-reaching horizon, where it is easy for a person who's driving a car to be attracted by the mirage, which keeps drawing him into the depth of the horizon. And the more you go into that horizon, it's the more you realize that art becomes a beacon of light where a learner and an educator can dream of touching the ceiling of never-ending dreams, because procreation is always realized in the artworks, because an artist is something God-given through the creative spirit inherent in him. That artist represents something that might mean very difficult to understand, and yet when you look at the poetry of people like William Blake, who was very, very gifted through the power of the pen, making images through writing. And we will also be reminded about Odilon Redon, who was also very much gifted. And we shift and go towards the dream world of Jackson Pollock, who wanted to move away from the terrain where a person is given the challenge to unlearn the mystified versions of what it is, of what it means to be an artist. Pollock broke the norm of working in a perpendicular way or in a vertical way or horizontal way, and always facing the canvas or the supposedly painted surface. And he said to himself, no, I think the best way of me penetrating the unknown. Penetrating the unknown in the sense that you look with your inward eye and you penetrate the unpainted or undrawn surface. And the more you move your hands onto the surface that has to invite you, it's the more you want to delve deeper and deeper into that surface. And he would say he preferred, other than painting with a brush on a canvas, he preferred to work with fluid paint from small containers that had acrylic paints, and then he would move right around the canvas. And in that you discover many worlds of interpretation that comes from the eye of the beholder. And each eye of the said beholder will be different from another eye of yet another beholder. And that contains poetic underpinnings, because with words, you can make the world a better place. You can make the stuff that makes people want to write, to delve deep into poetry. So to me, what has been transpiring is that I would so wish that art education, and unfortunate period that sealed our eyes in when we were doing grade 1, grade 2, because we were made the unassuming kids who grew up knowing that it's only white people who could draw and paint and whatever. But we knew that there'll come a time when we will take what it is that has been keeping our eyes closed to the virtuality of reality. Because when you look like the way Athi has been handling what he saw or what he read in my works, I would feel the essential path having thus been created creates, something that we usually we call them ilokuzana, isivivane. Isivivane is something that guides a wayfarer into understanding the path that lies ahead. So, the way it makes me wish that there would be a DVD or something that will be a compass needle of how to tread onto this world through the undertaking of what it means to indulge proficiently. So I think if it's nama DVDs, nama coffee table publications, and I think I'm picking that from the way that has been reflected. Coffee table publications that could virtually be found or given to any of the centers that we went to. with our colleagues from Ubuntu Trust. And those direction givers or indicators will make a child understand the contents as to the eye of the beholder. So Lama publications angatholakala for the consumption by art learners and art educators, because in this case, even the art educator becomes much of an aspiring absorption element. That's what Mangabe absorbule the teacher, then so will it happen to the learner, because the learner wants also to be inspired by the work of the educator. Hence, it makes an educator to be involved in showcasing his work and talk also about his work to learners, other than making a learner spoon-fed, other than indulging into the myth and the magical terrain that the art world contains. So I would wish that could continue, especially, some of these kids find the mythical content of how to explore a medium like the lino card. I remember when, before I went to Rostrip, I would see these lino cards by the late Dan Rakwate, Cyprian Shilagwe, and all that. But when I went to Rostrip, I found that lento ebengicabanga ukuthi iyenzeka nge-art, that I would make lino other than printing through lino on the surface. I would go to CNA and buy some ink and try to emulate the creative path left on the piece of paper by engaging the brush with the hand so as to transfer that image onto the paper. So it made...
Prachas, I'm sorry to stop you. We're going to come back because we have Vincent next to you. I understand why he keeps, he's always around you. It's because, you like a lullaby. Your voice is like a lullaby to him. So to wake Vincent up, right, I'm going to play a short clip by Dr. Nduli, who you've worked with before. She showed your work before at Standard Bank, and she's written about your work. So I'm so sorry to cut you short, but I'd like to play a short clip from her, and then we'll come back and speak to Vincent and then you. Is that okay, Brachal?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Lisa, could you please play the video clip? Vincent.
Hi, how are you?
Hold on. Good, thank you. Hold on, we'll play Same and then come back to you after Same. Okay? All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Nduli. I am an art historian and also currently the curator and manager at Standard Bank Gallery. Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this conversation, but also to respond to the short film that was shared. I was asked to give a brief response to the film, but I think more so about Brachal's Nkosi's career and trajectory, but also significance and contribution to the South African art landscape. And I think what this video has revealed, or what I would like to speak to, is two things in particular. The first is this sort of desire of the unknown that Brad Charles speaks to or about in the film, which for me evoked the whole question of township art, which is a category that artists like him for a long time were understood or kind of perceived through. And in an exhibition that I had curated in 2018, drawing from the Fort Hare University collection, I featured, I think it was 2 of Brad Charles's artworks. And I had placed them within the kind of narrative of artworks that did not only challenge the notion of the labeling of township art, but did so through the kind of subject matter and stylistic approach, but also I think a more kind of nuanced understanding of what it is the artists we're trying to portray. And I think Brad Charles speaks to this in this video. I liked the idea of how he described this desire to create a world where they could explore beyond limitations. To explore a world beyond the limitations and the limitations of the education system that at the time made it impossible for Black creatives to pursue learning about art at a formal level. And it's also significant to note that Brad Charles was exposed to art at a very young age, and it had been part of his life, from high school level onwards, and even, his father being a renowned pianist. And I think that's important also to note in terms of the biographies of Black artists and the way in which they are not only written about, but the way in which we understand how they came into this world of visual arts. There is a notion that I think, or a perceived notion, that Black artists were kind of, they landed into art serendipitously, so to speak, or by chance, that it wasn't something that they were kind of intentional about in terms of what it is they wanted to do at a professional level. And I think it's important to also note that in pursuing to study at Roxdrift, that again speaks to the narrative of biographies of Black artists, where a place like Roxdrift is kind of synonymous with how Black artists' biographies are written about, right? That many of them come to art through their interaction with the school or the training institute. And for Brad Charles to speak about it, I think, as a place where he not only learned different styles and influences and met other artists that had an influence on him, but also that it was a space where I think he speaks about it as a period of introspection as well for him, in terms of what was happening in relation to socially and politically in the country. And that was quite interesting, that in a place like Roxdrift, where artists were kind of isolated from the rest of the world, so to speak, that this was a point for him that kind of made him more in tune with what was going on in the political landscape. I also found that his mentioning of other artists that influenced him stylistically is quite important in this case, and speaks to the gaps that exist in Black South African art history. That a figure like Judas Mahlangu, for example, who was, I think quite prolific in his printmaking technique, a technique that is often spoken about in relation to well, not specifically in relation to Black artists, because Black artists are known to have worked with linocut, for example, as Brett Charles points out, and I'll speak to that again in how he has described why he worked in linocut, that it's not necessarily about it being a medium that was economical, but I think it was also had to do with the speed, right, of information coming in, as he was saying, with what's going on around him. But I figure, like, I think Judas Mahlangu, for example, in South African art history, has completely disappeared. It becomes important to hear somebody like Charles Nkosi speaking about him as an important influence in his own work. And then lastly, to conclude my commentary, was to speak about his Charles's his mandate, that he says that, you know, he's always been driven by the spiritual mandate to keep making. And I think that's quite a powerful notion to end off with, not just as art, describing art as a place of refuge, as he had spoken about earlier in the film, but as this desire to always, something that, you know, he's compelled to do, even in his kind of mature age now, that the desire to continue making art is primarily driven by a spiritual mandate. It's a beautiful, I think, analogy to how I think certain artists, or Black artists in particular, have had a relationship with art, not just as a medium of expression, but it's linked to this other deeper desire or inclination to share one's experiences with the world. Thank you.
That was Dr. Sami Nduli. Thank you, Sami. Absence. Brachas, could you please unmute yourself? It would be great to hear from Bra Vincent. Bra Vincent, I don't know if I'm getting this wrong, but do you know Bra Charles from the days of Rockstrip? Is that where you met? And you are also neighbors currently, and, you know, how has it been being by this great artist side, you also being one of the greatest artists?
First of all, okay, that's Vincent. Hi, Semi, and you. I've just forget your name. My name again.
Zippo Vince.
Zippo man. Yeah, so I started Charles, when was it? 1974. Rockstrip, Asian. So by then I was young, and then I was the latest to come to school. And then, so yeah, I was also welcomed by him at the time. So he looked after me as young, because there was guys there like Raymond Kosona, Mafangwenya, Julius Masang. And then Raymond, he was like to pull me, and well, sometimes he'll just take my things like soaps, all those things, and so on. Yeah, but by then, okay, we learn, and then from there, well, I didn't stay too long in Rockstrip, and then I only stayed for 2 years, and then from Rockstrip, when did I finish? I think 1976. And then there was little bit problems that I have, and then from there, start going by myself. Because I have a family problems. So by then, okay, I start working with other location like Leonard Matuso, Sigri, and Ben Matala, all those guys get working with them and so on. Till and at the same time, I was working, then practicing art only when I come from work and weekends and so on. So, but I have some difficulties, but okay, I managed to push myself till and then at the time of Funda Center, that's where I met him again from. I think he was working at SABC after that, came to Funda. And then from there, I worked with him from 1986 with Steven Seck and other artists like Sigrisi Zepe, Tanki Mochele, ArtSAT. And then from there, worked with, from Funda Center, then I went to Artist Proof, meet King Behrman, and then printmaking, start working with them again. But then I was also working for that's at university.
I'm sorry, Pravincent. Sorry, Pravincent. Can you please ask the people in the background, ucela bantu in the background, to please speak softly because they are overpowering your audio. Thabisile.
Maybe they can hear me. That's okay.
Okay, sure.
That. So that's all.
You can go on, Pravincent. Sorry to cut you. And then in 1986, you can go on, Pravincent.
86, that's where I start working with metal sculpture. And then met also artists like Eduardo Villa. So working on metal. So from there, after 86, 1990, I think 1990, that's when I started working adverts with oh, yes, that adverts, I think I work as a studio manager working in studios with David Andrew and other student, other artists as well. And then till until 2019, that's when I retired. That's, I think, till now. Thanks.
All right, Pravincent. Siyabonga. We still have a little bit more time, but let me do a little bit of an announcement. I don't know if you are able to check on the chat box. There's an evaluation form on the side. Would really appreciate if everyone attending can fill in the form. We'd like to know if these sessions are working or not working. Where can we improve? So if you would really like for you to comment on the form that's on the chat box. We still have a few minutes left. Athi was talking about how well versed Brad Charles is, but did you know that Brad Charles is also a jazz head? He features in one of the sessions here on jazz called Conversations with Jazz. So if you're not subscribed onto at Ubuntu's mailing list, do so by going to the website at ubuntu.org. At the bottom of the very first page, you will find a little box there where you fill in your email address, and you'll get updates on following sessions, including this one that I just mentioned, Conversation on Jazz, where Brad Charles is also featured. So roundabout now, if you have questions, you can raise your hand, you can write on the comment section on the side. But I would like, before, get okay. I think Bridget is ready. Before we get carried away, because we don't have a lot of time on our side, I would like if Bridget can do appreciation right now, and then we can continue, because Brad Charles also wanted to continue his thoughts, but I would like for us to go to Bridget for now before we turn to Brad Charles. Are you ready, Bridget?
Yes, I'm ready, Zipo, thank you. And this is such a wonderful opportunity, because having worked with Brad Charles for nearly 2 decades now, and seen him so often liven up an art teaching situation. And in fact, Art Ubuntu wouldn't really exist in the form that it exists today if it weren't for Brad Charles, because and then Brad Charles said, keep the structure alive, you need to do something for art education in South Africa. And it was through him that we continued and started the process of working all over the country in community art centers. So I'd really like to thank Brad Charles for that inspiration, that initial inspiration, and the ongoing inspiration, which has been so important. I learned so much from him. I learned so many things. Once I was really angry with a curator who was sort of standing in our way, and Brad Charles taught me a little bit about anger management. And so there are all kinds of things that I've learned from Brad Charles, not least the jokes. But the thing that I particularly appreciate about Brad Charles is when you first see him, he announces his love of color with his shirts. As you've seen in the photographs, his shirts have always the most beautiful colors and the most beautiful patterns. I've never asked him why he buys his shirts. And then from there, you begin to understand his love of color, and the way he plays with color, and the way he allows his color to tell a story and to shift into a kaleidoscope, a kind of ever-changing love of life and nature and people, and so many complex stories. As Athi was saying, there's so much more work that needs to be done to really understand Brad Charles's more recent work, which concentrates very much on color in abstract forms, and his other abstract work as well. It's really extraordinary. And yeah, so that was the one thing that I want to say. It's really special to have a session where we talk about Brad Charles and his work. But then, of course, when he starts to speak, he turns the conversation back again to his dedication to the young people of this country, and how they are deprived of learning about art. And that's so typical of Brad Charles, because he brings this Ubuntu methodology into everything that he does, into his teaching, into his art making. There's a kind of a seamless relationship. And also we see his friend, and thank you for your input, Brad Vincent. Brad Charles is always with other artists. He's always introducing us to people and saying, Bridget, you need to know this person. Bridget, you need to know that person. You need to work with this person. That person's important. He has this absolutely, extraordinary network of people who are all involved in this work of art making, and the exchanges have really been profound. And like Athi, I'd also like to pay a tribute to Ezekiel, who in many of the years that we worked with Brad Charles, we worked with Brad Charles and Ezekiel together. And it was really, really wonderful. Ezekiel was quiet, he was in the background, but he understood Bra-Charles incredibly well. He himself was a great and sensitive artist. It was always a pleasure putting a workshop together with Ezekiel, because he would just kind of get things together in such a quick and efficient, and typically, I mean, people say that artists are a bit dozy, but, I find artists to be so quick and so efficient in the way they do things, and Ezekiel was exemplary in that. And it was always such a pleasure to work with him and to collaborate with him. And there was this beautiful understanding between him and Bra-Charles, which really made it such a pleasure to work with the two of them together. And the other thing that is so special about Bra-Charles is your sense of humor. I hope you'll share a joke with us today before we go. Because sometimes the workshops would finish, then people would say, please just tell a few more jokes, because they love them. But it's all part of the technique of getting people to relax and to be themselves and then express themselves through their work. They're very, very sad statistics, which in the nearly 2 years that we've been knocking on these doors of the art education institutions, and in the, I think, going on for 4 decades in which Bra-Charles has been doing that through Funda, and I see there's a question in the chat asking him to talk a bit about his Funda experience, that we haven't really been able to have an impact, and that is that 5% of South African schools provide visual art for matric. So 95% of students who go to school in South Africa do not have the possibility of producing a portfolio if they want to carry on and study art, design, or architecture. And Bra-Charles's work at Funda Center was absolutely critical in allowing many people who approached him to come through there and to be able to continue their career in art. And I'd also like to mention the time in which Funda Center had absolutely no resources. I think it started in 2008, and it was occupied by so-called veterans who even melted down the sculptures for scrap metal and did the same with books from the library. It was absolutely appalling. And Bra-Charles and Ezekiel and Phumelele Nkosi continued working all the way through without salaries, often without salaries, sometimes using the most extraordinary materials as means to just continue their creative expression. And one of the last things they did before Ezekiel passed away was to gather together former Funda visual art students for an auction and to provide Funda Center with a very substantial amount of money to keep going. Sadly, I don't think Funda Center has yet shown the respect they should have, or shown the memory, or respected the memory of what Bra-Charles and Ezekiel contributed, and in keeping the institution alive and keeping it going, because at one stage it was only the visual art department that was alive. But we who have known Bra-Charles for all this time get so much pleasure from knowing that he is actually working on his own work exclusively at last, because all the time that he was teaching at Funda, he was being sought out for local and international exhibitions, but he never put any effort into promoting himself or promoting an exhibition for himself. It was always collective. It was always with other people. I love that picture of Bra-Charles. It's beautiful, the beautiful portrait. And so yeah, so that is just typical. So there's this seamless message. There's this seamless form and content from Bra-Charles's work through to his commitment to his students, to his commitment to society as a whole, which carries forward the best of African values, the best of what we loosely call Ubuntu, in his aesthetic, in his practice, in his care for the students at Funda, in his care for the institution of Funda, and in his care for everybody who works with him. And so, speaking also on behalf of Abdul Qadir, who you mentioned, Brad Charles, I want to use this opportunity to say an enormous thank you to you for the incredible pleasure and privilege of having been with you, of having seen you inspire young people all around the country, for your humor, and most especially for your work, which we only really starting to understand now, and we're just scraping the surface. We've got a long way to go. These beholden eyes have got a long way to go to really understand the message that you're putting across. And just, I'd like to just mention to the participants that it was the late Pindile Kaba who wrote the essay on Bra Charles, which will be available through the Artubuntu website, together with the film and this recording, for anybody who'd like to use it for further educational purposes. And then Bongiwe Hlekiso, who sadly couldn't join us today, but who's written a very insightful, culturally insightful master's thesis on Gladys Mgodlandlu, bringing a whole new interpretation to Gladys Mgodlandlu's work, and who's just recently finished a PhD on Umbako, wrote a lovely monograph on Bra Charles, where she starts to link Bra Charles's cultural background to his aesthetic. And that's the beginning of the discourse that we really need to have. So I just like to say, Siyabonga. Thank you very much, Bra Charles, for everything. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. And now I'll give the floor back to our wonderful chair and curator, Zipo, and I hope we'll hear more from Bra Charles. Thank you.
All right, we don't have a lot of time, everybody, but I would like for you, Bra Charles, to respond to a question that Bra Vusimkunu had. It's not a question, actually. He just asked if you could briefly tell us about your years at Funda Center. Briefly.
Vusimkunu?
Vusimkunu is here. He's on the show, on the program. He asked if you could please talk briefly about your experience at Funda. Because you spent a lot of years at Funda. How many years? 38 years. How many years was it?
36.
36 years.
Yeah. Well, I've known Vusi through the brother that we were with at Merin, Mbusumkun, a musician. So, but Vusi was also very artistically inclined, and then he was working also, he worked also with people like Mafika Kwala. Mafika Kwala, so Maling. When he died, he was already the dean of the Department of Engineering at Mangosuthu Technical. And I respect the worthiness in him that was inclined to link up with the chain that makes the arts talk, a broad-based language. So I shared memos with him about the plight of arts education in the country, where at the center stage of which there was Funda. Funding has always been a problem that gave historically disadvantaged institutions a big worry, because, you know, sometimes you feel very bad about the possibility of an immediate closure of the only school that had linked up with the University of South Africa during Stephen Sachs' tenure at Funda. So you can imagine that when an institution like Funda closes shop after the threats that were facing FUBA, you also again feel bad. But I'm reminded of a time when Susan Silepe invited me to write an article on community art centers in South Africa. So I put Funda at the center stage of the threats facing community-based art centers. So, but there's a lot, It's a story without end. But now that we've got a new Minister of Sports, Arts and Cultures in Zikodwa, we are hoping that the problems that were faced by art centers in the past, that this could be a remedial period in which we could have all the dreams and focus onto the future will get okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Charles.
Hello.
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 Yes, you're still talking, Brother
Hello.
Charles? Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, roughly, in a nutshell, I think as colleagues in the terrain that charts the way forward, we could engage each one of us, maybe tasks himself, artists, art historians, curators, to talk about all these caregivers looking after the interests and the resuscitation of the interests of the state in making art live. Because if you don't support the arts, it means you are somebody without a compass needle that is based on focus to the future. We need the state to be very instrumental in helping art centers survive. We've got a lot of art centers, got people like Art and Ubuntu Trust who are doing a great job in making sure that these countrywide workshops that they've been given with the help of artists like the late Ezekiel Budeli, like the late Dingan Kapa, and all those people, we need them to come into the scenario. We also need the role of Standard Bank. And I'm very pleased to have seen or heard who Dr. Nduli, Nduli, because she occupies a very important position at the Standard Bank. And one of the cornerstones that can be attributed to her probing, positively charged nature was when she organized an exhibition that linked the University of Fort Hare, which was also linked to the Standard Bank Art Gallery. And these two institutions were linked via the political scenario where artists were busy with protest art. And Standard Bank and we are also very much thankful of the way they have given in Grahamstown Arts Festival a muscle to hang on in there, having looked at the works of people like Abu Abu Peter Clerk and Banning, the list is endless, but cool, we as artists should jointly put the work together. The Standard Bank, Nama Art Centers, ube beacon of hope and oasis that from which we can forever drink. Like in Mirage, when you drive on a flat road, you keep seeing this pool of water, then that never fades away, but it gives us the will to survive and the will to keep visiting and chatting with the people from the Department of Arts and Culture, because people without culture is a people without the name, and to search forward and fight for the preservation of customs, amasiko ethu, and having to design an endless it's vibrant. Collectively speaking, it puts the minds of people who never saw each other maybe before, but it gives a sense of direction, a compass needle for the wayfarers and travelers with Lendle. So that's all that I can say at the moment. Hello.
Thank you so much, Brother Charles, and thank you so much for today, for being here with us. Before we wrap up, I would like to ask Athi if you have any last commentaries before we say goodbye. Now you're welcome.
Okay.
Oh, I'd like, sorry, Prachas?
Oh, I just wanted to express a lot of thanks to you guys. And when I heard about this, I think it was in one of the workshops, and if that's what La Sahlangana Corner, well, we had the workshop for stencil design and in tie-dyeing and all that. So, but it was a wonderful workshop. That's all. You can take on at saying right.
Okay, thanks, Prachas.
Mm.
Can you hear me? Okay. No. I mean, if there's anything I would say, I mean, it's maybe to carry on from the point that I was making regarding my interests in the abstract works that Prachas has made over the years, and I think one of the things that I'd motivate people to do, especially writers who have an interest in such works, and is to really, spend some time with the work of Prachas, and really engage it in the way that I think it deserves, because there's so much in the work that there's Same and Bridget also alluded, that it invites a certain kind of because of its vitality, it invites a certain kind of curiosity and interest. I mean, if one goes closer to the work, I mean, you see so many other interesting layers that are there, and you see the labor that goes into the work. You also maybe will be able to engage the work in ways that will, show, its intensity, its intensity, just not only in terms of the work that we're seeing now. I mean, it's not just an explosion of color. There's just so many things happening. There's so many layers. There's so many things that really require the detail. You know what I'm saying? So I really motivate people to especially younger writers to engage this work, and especially when Brachals, to interview Brachals, to engage Brachals more, not only about the past, but about the things that he's doing now at this age, the experience that he's pouring out into the surface, the canvas, and whatever kind of surface that he's working on. And I think that is important, for the kind of veteran artists that we have, to enrich, the not so much the heritage. I don't want to use that language, but the there's just so much in South African work that has not been explored, and with so many people that are out there writing, younger people especially, this will also help, folks to really begin to understand the complexity that is. I think it's probably Moholo was talking about talent the last time I was in this thing, and it's one of those instances, that Black talent in particular is not considered, and the veterans that we have, like Brachals, Vincent Baloyi, and others, whose works are there, but people are not taking the challenge, because some of these works really require us, as Brachals was saying, to look analytically, to look analytically and study them quite seriously. And they pose a challenge to us, and a challenge that I think people are not willing to, or not willing, but not aware of, or afraid, or whatever. I don't know. So and I'll just motivate people. I'm one of the people that I should really, I've been saying I'll sit down and just really write a particular piece, and I'm glad that I'm saying this to out there, that I said I will write something particularly on this work. So yeah, thank you, Zippo.
Okay. Oh, sure. Okay. All right. We've got over our time. Would love to stay longer, but thank you everyone for joining us. Excuse me, Prashant.
My last word is may the powers that be allow the potential longevity of art to trust, because we have become an angel of mercy, salvage. All the root as arts education ibe invested with izinto ezingathandeki, because iy'ngane ikakhulukazi zibone ngazuthi visual arts is not a route to follow. They would rather opt for music, which is also good, but they need also to tie up with the lifeline. ANC art to trust. That's all that I have. Thank you.
So much, Brad Charles. Thank you so much, Brad Vincent. Next to Brad Charles. Thanks to the whole entire family. Thank you, Athi. Thanks, Bridget. Thanks to everyone who logged in and for your comments. And thank you so much, Bravusi Nkunu. Yeah, we'll see you next Saturday. If you're not subscribed yet, do so. If you're not quite sure how to subscribe, please write a message on the chat and we will help you out. Yeah, it's been a great session. We'll put this session up on YouTube. It's not out. Well, the other previous sessions we promised you for YouTube are not out yet, but we're working on them. We'll add this one on the list, and you can always go back and revisit it on YouTube and watch all the presentation by our guests. Bridget, you have your hand up, or was that previously?
No, it is up. Lefifi's been trying very, very hard. Lefifi really wanted to join this session and pay tribute to Bra Charles, but he's having technical difficulties. I don't know how to help him, but he hasn't been able to sign in. But he sends his greetings to you, Bra Charles, and also to you, Bra Vincent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.